vacation, so I haven't shaved yet, but wanted to show you something I've been working on. Just got into Blood Bowl recently, and I've got 4 teams, most of which are painted at this point, and I needed a new storage solution because the foam core that I've been using for Infinity, which has worked for that, it wasn't going to work for this because all of the models are plastic for Blood Bowl, and some of them have got some really thin, fragile looking parts on them, and I just knew they were going to snap off coming in and out of foam core. So I decided it was time to take the plunge and magnetize these miniatures. So I bought some cheap magnets on the internet, but I didn't want to do the full steel plate in the bottom of the box thing. I felt like there had to be an easier way to do it. So I found one, and I want to show you what I did. So here's a box that I'm using. And I cut out a piece of foam core for it, as you can see, and it's about half the size of the box. This will be for one team, and I'll put another team over there. So just, foam core, I don't think the thickness really matters much for this. These miniatures are pretty light being plastic. And so here's what I did. I super glued a bunch of washers to it. That, I think, is going to work. So here we go. So, got the little magnets on the bottom, and there you go. Perfectly fine. So I could have stopped there, but I wanted to make this pretty, and I kind of wanted to show you my logic and what I did here. So I laid out a grid. Each one of these washers is 2 inches apart, and I've got an inch to the edge. That gives the miniatures enough room so that I don't think that they could spin. Magnetized miniatures do tend to seem to spin some, but I don't think they'll bang into each other. If you've got a really wide miniature, maybe you would need something else. So given that, an 8x8 square piece is enough for 16 dots, which is a full team. If you have some extra miniatures for that set, like I know I'm going to have more Skaven than 16. I've got a 4-person expansion coming for the base team we've got, and a Rat Ogre, so that's 17. But 16 is a team, so I think I'm just going to put the active team here and then have another sheet that I'll build out that'll be for miniatures that aren't on a team yet. So you'll notice this one's a little longer than I needed. I've got some plans for down here, and also I wanted it to fit snugly in the box. So, I would recommend you find the box and you cut the piece to fit in the box, because you don't want it sliding around in the box, because that's just not helping your situation. So, like I said, next I wanted to make this a little nicer looking. So I decided I'm going to print out something to put down over top of the magnets. So I made this little pitch kind of background. So it's kind of a gravelly pitch, and it's got some what look like painted lines on them, kind of in the style of a Blood Bowl pitch. I stole a little image off the internet for this one. Most of them don't have one. Don't steal images off the internet. And I suppose I could just glue this down, but a couple problems happen. First of all, it's hard to find where the magnets are, and it's going to loosen the magnet capability a little bit. So I didn't want to do that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to cut holes around where I put the magnets. So the first thing I do is I go around with my fingernail and just kind of perforate the paper so I can see where it is. Obviously the first thing is to make sure the sucker's lined up the way you want it, which I've already done. Now I'm going to take my X-Acto knife here, and I'm just going to go, I'm just trying to find the edge of the washer, and as straight down along that edge as I can, I'm cutting around the washer. All right, and there we go. And there's one, and I actually did a pretty good job of that because I've been practicing. So once you get a couple of those done, then the piece of paper will kind of be kept in place by those holes, and then it's just time cutting them all out. Which, through the magic of having done a bunch of these, I'm going to skip ahead. So now, here's a sheet where I've already done that. I've already cut all the holes out for this pitch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue it. So here we have, I just have some Elmer's rubber cement, and I'm just going to put a good amount of glue on a couple pots in particular. I mean, you know, if you had that fancy spray-on glue, this would be great for that. I don't. But I'm mostly focusing on a couple places. I'm focusing on the edges, obviously, which is your biggest failure point in this, and also right around the circles. In fact, basically I'm painting over the circles with glue because this cutting board I've got here, its purpose in life is to be painted and glued on, so I don't really care if it gets a little Elmer's glue on it. So then we're going to flip this over, line it up nice, squish it down. I mean, you don't have to be too worried about this because Elmer's glue is going to peel up. If you decide you don't like the way this looks, you can just pull a corner of this up and just start over. And no big deal. Oh my God, that piece got a little out of whack when it's cutting. So there we go. So then I would let this dry. That would be the magic of, again, having done this already. We'll move on to this sheet. So this sheet is dried. Now what I'm going to do for this bottom section, I told you I had plans for. So I cut out a team name and logo, and I'm going to put it right there. And the way I'm going to do that, attach that, is with these guys. And these are photo corners, and you can find them in little sheets in your craft store, probably online. If you're looking for hints, scrapbookers use these. So like in the craft store, you'll find them in the scrapbook section. So these particular ones just kind of peel off, and they're sticky on that side. What they want you to do, which is a good idea, is to fit it over the corners of your photo, or in this case, Blood Bowl team name. Here. More. Okay. Get those pretty snug there and lined up the way I want. And then you just put it down on your thing where you want it. Yep. Yep. Press it down. So these come over the edge a little bit because the way I did this, because I ended up making this bottom piece exactly the right size to fit, but you lose a little with the corners, so you probably, if you wanted to be really perfect about it, pull it in. I decided not to. So what do I like about this? Well, first of all, it adds a little decoration to it here with the shiny kind of faux metallic corners, and it means that if I decide that this team is going to change names in the future, I can just pull this guy out and pop in a new one. So I'll show you another example. So here's another one that I finished. So the first one I finished, and so you can see I used more of a green field for this. It doesn't, the variegation didn't come out as well as I wanted it to, but different look for this team, my human team. And you can see again that it's all really snug and secure, and it fits right there in that half the box. And this is one of those boxes where that little side comes down so I can scoot it. There's enough give that I can get two of these next to each other here, and next to each other. And there's a little room, which is nice because you don't want to get your finger in there to take it out, and you're gonna need room. I need room in this box for this piece to slide down. So I was really happy with this. So I went a step further, and I have these boards that I prime on. This is just a really thick cardboard, triple layered cardboard sheet that I got sent with something over the internet, and I saved it, and I just cut out some squares and a little notch for my thumb, and I take this outside and I spray primer on stuff. I prime stuff on it, or at the end I put my lacquer over stuff. And what I'd been doing with this is just using some tack to, as I knock over miniatures, using some tack to tack everything down. And I still do that for some things like the balls or the coin tokens or things that I don't have bases and I'm not magnetizing. But for this sheet, you can see I dropped some of the washers down, and these guys all have magnets, which I want them to have anyways. And so boom, and so I just did this actually with a couple guys outside on my other sheet because I don't have a full team on this board, and worked really well. So anyways, that's my quick kind of tip for the day, and hopefully that was helpful and you guys found that interesting. And maybe later when they're all done, I'll show them off, and maybe show a playthrough or two of the league my son and I are going to kind of do amongst ourselves, because we have nothing better to do with our lives. Anyways, enjoy, and see you around.